Okay, so when it comes to actually deciding about our media planning strategy, we need an important part of it, obviously, is what sort of media we'll use. Now, what I've tried to do here is I've tried to supplement the book a little bit because I feel the book is a little bit out of date in places, in that it focuses very much on traditionalist media. And there's just so many different media outlets, and this has become more fragmented as your generation, Generation Z, don't consume media in the traditional way. You'll consume your media through your cell phone, through your tablets, um, through traditional kind of cable channels such as HBO, through YouTube, through TikTok. So there's so many different channels these days that things have become a little bit fragmented. And it used to be, as a kid, you were sat in front of the TV and you had to watch the adverts. People don't really watch media like this anymore. Online, it's harder to avoid, but sometimes people install ad blockers. So it's almost like this is almost a technology problem as well. So this is from the book. This is the relative strength of the media. Now, for the exam, I'm not gonna, you know, some of these are going to be a little bit out of date. So I'm not going to ask you, like, which is the highest reach, TV versus WWW versus Billboard versus direct mail, because it's a little bit dated. But anyway, here we have the traditional media. We have TV, self-explanatory, radio advertising. And interestingly, radio has not suffered as much as TV. Um, More use of satellite radio, but as people drive to work in the morning, people still need radio. So, and um, you're going to get in trouble with the law if you're trying to check media on your cell phone. So, radio has actually managed to keep some of its cachet, so to speak, in the media planning world. Newspapers, again, people really don't buy many newspapers these days. Journalists are becoming unemployed. There's lots of kind of traditional aggregation of news channels, news online. A lot of news providers have now, you have to, for example, New York Times, you have to go through a paywall. So newspaper advertising now is very much, it's really just almost a subset of internet advertising as people kind of read the content online. But there still is a space for traditional newspapers. If newspapers has gone downhill, then magazines have gone downhill even more. It used to be that magazines was quite a big part of media planning. I remember when I was a teenager, I used to work in a news store at the airport and just, you know, rows and rows of magazines. That still exists, but again, less people kind of have magazines these days. Billboard advertising, you have a captive audience driving on the freeway, it's still a thing. Obviously, I'm going to talk more about this WWW. This really doesn't do justice to the whole range of social media, online, internet, paid search, SEO channels that are now available. So I'll talk about this in a minute. And finally, direct mail. Again, getting something through your post still happens, but maybe not quite as common as it used to be. So this, I tried to get a slightly modern update of these things. Um, and if we look at this, we have and this was a question, which activities drove the most revenue for your business in 2023? And the businesses responded. So SEO, seems simple, but making sure your website comes up high in people's search is actually important. Email, SMS, email advertising. So again, people think it's dated, but it's still there. Organic social media. So this is like posting interesting things about your brand, engaging consumers. General public relations, we're going to talk a little bit. Interestingly, the highest is influencer marketing. So identify some influencers, whether it's mega influencers like Kim Kardashian, or maybe if you're trying to go with my example of trying to sell a product to 21 to 26-year-olds, find, I think I had somebody in my marketing research class who had like 1 million impressions for some of her posts. and that's way more impressions than any of my analytics posts ever get. So there are kind of moderate level influencers you probably know and interact with at university who can be hired to promote products. Affiliates, affiliate remarketing, referrals, paid search. You pay for pay-per-click advertising, etc. Advertising on social media channels, Amazon, eBay, smaller things like connected TVs, billboards. So, most people aren't, unless you're like a law firm, you're not making most of your revenue out of billboards. Linear TV, I think this just means traditional TV, events, conferences, outbound activity, other. So, it's a lot broader than the book would have you think. Do you expect to increase your investment? So, interestingly, SEO is the highest level of investment. And if we think PR is outdated, people are still looking to have been taken over by AI. PR is still like a place where people want to invest revenue. So this was kind of quite interesting. This was from Salesforce, and what they did is they compared, high performing marketers versus moderate performers versus underperformers. And the major difference was that high performers have a very good cross channel strategy. They maybe integrate their media advertising, TV advertising, to build the brand with conversion on pay-per-click advertising. They have a good SEO performance. So they just do everything well and it all kind of fits together. Where for the underperformers, this doesn't quite work. So the key with being a high-performing marketing organization is to be able to engage consumers across channels. And one thing is many consumer marketeers are neglecting organic. Um, you know, which can be among the most effective channels. Okay. And this was, we have a few people struggling through the business analytics minor that I created. Um, just a thing that 6 out of 10 marketers, again, we think of marketing as a soft kind of discipline, but when it comes to actually determining how much revenue to put into each of these different channels, we can talk about the advantages and disadvantages in this class. But the majority of people are using kind of quite complex, media mix modeling. Now, I doubt that most marketing people are actually going and programming in R or Python, but they will be utilizing tools that actually, have algorithms to have the optimal allocation of advertising. So about 60% are using some sort of modeling rather than just saying, okay, based on my intuition, I'm going to have 20% TV advertising, 20% SEO, 20% paid search, etc., etc. Okay, so when it kind of comes, we talked about the importance. I showed you those target adverts showing this very consistent branding across different advertising channels. But we do need to have, consistent talking about our products' attributes, talking what we do about the company. We can't have this wildly different in different marketing channels. And, you know, pricing needs to be consistent, product needs to be consistent. This really is um, kind of common sense. But when it comes to our actual design of our adverts, we want to play for each media's strength. Instagram, we need very strong visuals. If we're doing on Twitter, then we want kind of short, punchy comments, short, punchy content. So, depending on the media, we want a consistent brand image and consistent message, but we may change the advertising a little bit. Okay, so some media comparisons. These are from the book, and then I'm going to add a few of my own for more modern channels. So TV is expensive, but we get a lot of people. Think about the Super Bowl ads, how many people actually watch them. Maybe not as much as they used to, but it's, still a large market. The downside, if you have cable will sometimes push out different adverts to different people, but generally you can't, do as much targeting of specific consumers. You have this is really for broad brand building. Magazines, again, I said a little bit out of late. they do have broad appeal. Again, most magazines, most people read them online now, so it becomes a little bit more part of the general internet advertising. Long lead times for publication. Um, Non-intrusive, viewers can ignore ads. And again, it's probably just a slightly dying area. Radio in particular, we can purchase. We have, nationally syndicated shows, but we can actually I forgot the one when I drive through Birmingham in the morning, the Dallas and something show. I forgot the second name, can't in my hand, but there's shows that kind of are shown on a lot of different radio channels with maybe slightly changes in the music played. So we can purchase nationally, but we can also target very specific local markets. The good thing about radio advertising is we can target maybe segments of people who are underserved online, maybe elderly, blue collar consumers, and we can target it quite specifically geographic. So less expensive than TV, but generally smaller audiences. And I had to give you, since I drive through Alabama a lot, I had to give you the Alexander Shannara injury law. Call me Alabama. So one of the major advertising on billboards. We have medical, we have law, plastic surgery. I seem to see a lot of in Mississippi and Alabama. So billboards relatively expensive, good local coverage. Um, Now online and direct mail. Again, online, we're thinking more about online these days. We're targeting to specific segments of the marketing. We're using their, demographic behavior, their previous purchase behavior. We know somebody, for example, is interested in, you're a student, you want to go away on holiday after you've graduated. So a good campaign with good data analytics would find, hey, there's this group of people who want to reward themselves for passing marketing management and getting their degrees, and they'll want to be going on holiday. They might start their real jobs in August, so they would maybe be able to have an extended holiday around the June time. And direct mail, still putting things in people's mailboxes and sending things by post, relatively inexpensive. And it's hard to target demographically, but you can target geographically, but generally not efficient. Most people just take their mail, anything that's not a letter, and they'll just kind of rip it up. Okay, and again, I wouldn't spend too much time on this. This is a little, and I'm not going to ask these things in the multiple choice questions. You need to know the different types of media, but I'm not going to say, okay, a TV is 5 on being able to show emotions and giving product demonstrations, but a little bit less on information. But generally, more interactive channels, video channels, online content, TikTok. You can have more emotional adverts. You can kind of help build some empathy with the brand. Okay, so here's my little update. Update. So organic search engine optimization. Just if you forgot, the definition is this is when people search on the web. We're not paying for advertising. They come across our company and they click on our company. And Google, Bing have algorithms to decide how high up the search you are, and it's based on the size of your company, sometimes the local area, what keywords you have on the website. So the idea is we pay people to optimize our website so we're as high as possible on internet search. So that's SEO, search engine optimization. Paid internet advertising, we can do very precise targeting to certain demographics. We can target very narrow slithers of people. So we can target maybe college students who have visited a pizza restaurant in the last month, based on their online behavior. Maybe we have previous online pizza purchase behavior. Though when we see internet adverts, most people don't actually click them, so they have low click-through rates. I talked about retargeting where we almost buy something then don't, and then send people an advert. One of the advantages of that is it has much higher click-through rates than general pay-per-click advertising. And because it's pay to click, it's easy to attribute revenue. People click on the advert and they eventually purchase or not purchase. So we can work out ROI, return on investment, a lot better than something like organic search or TV advertising, which is more brand building. And I had to put influencer marketing. So as I've already said, we can target a range of influencers from Kim Kardashian to that colleague in your marketing class who's tried to build themselves an influencer and maybe has 10,000 followers. Disadvantage, I was teaching in another class. You lose a bit of control over your branding. If your influencer has a scandal or, you know, features your product in some way you don't like, then you don't quite get the control as if you kind of pre-approved the advert. Generally, with influencers, you can't pre-approve certain posts. You will send them a promotional product, and they will promote it for it. And it may be hard to directly tie things into specific promotions. And here's another kind of, from the resources I'm giving you this week. This is the level of personalization. So generally, we want to personalize our marketing messages. Me as a slightly older business professor, I might be targeted in a slightly different way than you would. My wants and needs might be slightly different. So this was pretty cool. This showed the level of personalization that we can do relative to the channel. So mobile messaging, we can just have short, snappy, personalized, very specific messages. Email is very easy to have maybe 10 different, messages that we adapt those messages for different groups of consumers. With AI, this is becoming easier. Then we have social media, websites, and eventually, organic search. We're trying to optimize the whole website. We're maybe not trying to optimize for individual consumers. And again, the difference between high performing and low performing marketing organizations is high performing marketing organizations manage more personalization. Okay, so that's it for this video. And then the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about personal selling.